everyone, welcome back to my channel, Side Hustle Seattle. So today I wanted to talk through 5 things that I think everybody should know if you are considering remote online notary work. So I've been around for 2.5 months, I guess. I started like early mid-February, actually like really doing work. And so, I've learned a lot along the way. I've experienced a lot, and I wanted to share that with you. Now, keep in mind, these are just my opinions. So if you're a Ron and you have some other things that you think everybody should know, please feel free to link it in the comments. I'm always for any sort of feedback or discussion. But yeah, let me go into what I think are the most important things if you're considering remote online notary work. Okay, so first things first, know your state laws. First of all, there is a crow in the background just turning up right now. Okay, anyways, know your state laws. That is important whether you are a mobile notary, remote online notary, loan signing agent, it doesn't matter. You have to make sure you know your laws. There's some big legal implications if you make any sort of errors, whether it be on purpose or not, okay? And often there's a distinction about what you can do as a mobile versus what you can do as a Ron, okay? So you wanna make sure you know how much you can charge. You wanna make sure you know which kind of acts you can do. You wanna make sure you know how long you have to keep the journal or the video files. Like for example, in Washington, I can charge $10 as a mobile notary for the actual notarization itself. But as a Ron, I can charge $25. But in a state like Arizona, you can only charge $10 as a remote online notary for the actual notary act itself. So that should influence which platform you go with. You don't want to have a platform that has really high transaction fees if you know you can only charge a certain amount. So just keep that kind of stuff in mind. Also, again, what kind of acts you can do. In Washington, everything I can do as a mobile notary, I can do as a Ron. That includes copy certification, right? So if anybody wants a certified copy, I'm actually legally allowed to do that via Ron. But in a state like Oklahoma, you can do it as a mobile, but you can't do it as a Ron. So you wanna make sure you're very clear about those distinctions, okay? All right, second thing you 100% should know. More likely than not, you are going to have to build your own customer base. Now, if you're a mobile notary, you're probably like, yeah, of course you have to build your own customer base. But the only reason I'm mentioning that is because most people's introduction into remote online notary work is through Notarize. And Notarize is a platform that provides you clients. However, the majority of platforms do not provide you clients on a consistent basis. And Notarize is only available for notaries in 4 states. So if you're not in those 4 states, you can't use that platform, which means whatever platform you're using, 99.9% of the time is not going to provide you clients. So you have to just be aware that you're going to be building your business, you're going to be marketing yourself, you're going to be networking, you're going to be trying to get your name out there. Nobody's going to do that legwork for you. And I just want to make that clear because I've seen that in the comments before. I get a lot of like, oh, which platform is going to give me clients? Which platform is going to give me clients? If you're not in that states, those 4 states, I think it's like, what, Texas, Florida, Virginia, and Nevada, nobody's going to give you clients. So you need to make sure you can get your own, okay? So just, I want to make sure you know that up front. The good thing though about being a Ron, and I'm pretty sure this is how it is in every state, but again, know your state laws, you can notarize documents for anybody in any state, all right? So you have to physically be located in the state that you're commissioned in, but your client, your signer can be anywhere. So I sit in Washington, my signer could be in California, they could be in Virginia, they could be in Texas, they can be out of the country. As long as they are a US citizen, and whatever document they're signing pertains to work within the US, I can sign it, right? So yes, you have to build your own client base, but you have a more expansive client base because you're not limited to just who is in your state. You can help anybody, all right? So keep in mind, although yes, you can help anybody who is in any state or even out of the country, that person out of the country still has to have a social security number, because the only way you can verify your identity on these platforms is through KBAs or knowledge-based authenticator questions. And those are only triggered with a social security number. So if they're in any other country, you cannot actually, if they're actually are not a citizen in the US or they don't have a social security number, you cannot help them via Ron. Keep that in mind. Now the third point, and something that I don't think gets talked about nearly enough, is that the majority of the work that you're going to do as remote online notary is general notary work. Here's the thing, right? Remote online notaries it's a new thing, right? It's been around since 2010, but it's in the very early stages of adoption. And so, your signing services, your title, your escrow companies haven't really fully dived into it yet. Now the momentum is definitely shifting. It's definitely getting busier. I think a lot more people are getting comfortable with it, but it's not quite there yet. And so, you're not going to get the same amount of signings that you do as a mobile, signing agent as you will as a remote online signing agent. You just won't. And I'm not saying you won't get any. I'm just saying it'll be a lot more few and far between. Now, the reason I wanted to make this point is specifically for brand new notaries who are looking to do signing agent work only as a remote online signing agent. So if you were like me, right? We're like, all I want to do is only remote work and I'm going to be a signing agent. I want to make sure I brought this point up because keep in mind, like being a signing agent costs money, right? Like you have to get your background checked, you have to take classes, you have to get certified, you have to do all of these things. And if the majority of the work that you're going to get has nothing to do with these certifications that you just got, then you have to consider if that's something that you want to do now. Maybe you want to do it later. Maybe you don't want to do it at all. But I wanted to make sure that I made that point. Now, again, it's not that you will never get signing agent work via Ron. That's not true. You definitely can. I'm just saying the majority of the work that you'll get, especially now, why companies are still getting comfortable with it, will be general notary work, okay? I fully stand by, if you're a mobile notary, I think adding remote online notary to your repertoire, to what you provide, is brilliant. I think it's great. I would suggest every mobile notary added on, or mobile signing agent added on. But if you're only looking to do remote online notary work, then you have to make the decision on if you want to become a signing agent now and spend all that money, or just start with general notary work first. And then once you start getting a little bit of a clientele and realize that there's need for signing agents remotely, then maybe spend the money. So just something to think about. Okay, so the fourth thing for you to know, yes, you need to be comfortable with technology. There's no way around that, all right? When you're doing remote online notary work, right, you're dealing with your computers, you're dealing with audio visual, you're dealing with your signer's device and their audio visual. You don't need to work an IT job. You don't need to have an IT background. You don't need to have anything like that. You just have to be comfortable navigating computers or tablets or phones, right? Because at the end of the day, yes, you have to make sure your stuff's working, but if your signer also can't get their stuff to work, you're gonna have to help them troubleshoot as well. And what I've found with a lot of remote online notary companies, they run really lean, which means they don't have a ton of customer support. They don't have a ton of people in the back end. So if something happens in the moment and you don't know how to fix it, it's not as quick as just calling them up and helping them or have them help you troubleshoot. That's not gonna happen. Most of the time, support for those companies comes via email. So if your signer's like, hey, this thing's not loading for me or whatever the case, you're gonna have to figure that out yourself, all right? So make sure that you're just generally comfortable with technology. You know where your camera is, you know where your mic is, you know how to toggle all of that. All right, you will be a part-time IT person as you're trying to help people get on the system and work through the system. So I felt like that was self-explanatory, but I just wanted to make sure people knew. You don't need to be a genius at it. You don't need to be, I said again, working in a tech field to have a tech background at all, but you need to be comfortable. All right, and the fifth thing, and the most important thing, is that not all platforms are created equally, okay? There's so many remote online notary platforms out there and they differ so much, right? And it's really, it can be hard to digest because they differ so much. But my suggestion, do not spend a single dime on signing up to be a remote online notary. Don't spend a single dime on getting a digital certificate or seal or any of that until you know which platform you're going to use and how much that platform costs and will pay you out. Do your research before you dive into anything, because you can find yourself spending a lot of money up front only to find out that platform sucks. So just do your full research before doing anything but remote online notary work, okay? You have to consider things like the setup fees, the transaction fees that you'll get. You have to consider the signer experience, your experience. If you need to bring on your own digital certificate or electronic notarial seal, you have to think about what devices it's on. Do they have an app? Do they not? Is it good for loan signing? Is it only good for general notary work? Is it available in your state? There's so much to think through that 100% don't spend a dime on any application. Don't spend a dime on anything until you've done thorough research into which platform you can actually use and is actually good for you. I highly, highly, highly suggest that, okay? I've seen a lot of people who are yeah, I signed up for this platform, paid $300, and then I realized that I could have got it free from a different platform. Don't dive into anything. And I will often say that states, when you go in your state and they like recommend you platforms, they don't do the research. They're just like, hey, I see this platform meets our qualifications as far as like what we need in a platform to be compliant. So here's this platform I suggest. Like, they have no idea. They don't know how much it costs. They don't care. They just know that it's compliant for them. And so they suggest it, but it doesn't mean it's the best one. So please make sure to do your research. Now, I could go really, really in depth about everything you should consider before picking a platform, but this would make this video like forever long. So I think I'll just make that a separate video, maybe next week. A couple key things to keep in mind though, just some like quick decision making. One, free does not mean good. But expensive almost always means bad. I'll put it that way. So I've seen a lot of free platforms that are not great platforms. They're just not well done. They're not well maintained. So just because a platform is free doesn't mean it's the platform you should go with. But I will stand by the statement. If you have to spend hundreds of dollars from the beginning just to get signed up with the platform, it is the wrong platform for you. I will stand by that. I will blanket that statement. If you're spending hundreds of dollars just from the jump, before you even get into it, before you even have your first signer, it's a bad platform. I don't care what anybody says, it's the wrong one. All right, there's enough platforms out there that aren't gonna cost you $300 off the top that you can use and that are great, okay? So just keep that in mind. The second thing to note, not every platform is going to pay you out the same amount. So you need to also do some kind of like price comparison. For example, I can charge $25 in the state of Washington, right? I have one platform that I use that if I charge my client $25, after their transaction fees, I'll get paid out $15. I have another platform that I use that after their transaction fees, I'll get paid $13, and another one that'll pay me $10, right? It's not all equal. The math doesn't always add up the same, all right? So it's important to also know how much you'll get paid per transaction depending on which platform you use. And some are better for when you have 2 documents to sign versus 1, or some are better when you have 2 seals versus 1, or a loan signing versus 1, right? So there's a lot of like comparison that you have to do. And you just want to make sure if you're choosing between platforms, how much you'll get paid out versus different acts. So it's nice to kind of list it out and be like, okay, if I'm only doing 1 signer, 1 seal, how much is that? If I'm doing, 2 signers, 1 seal, how much is that? Loan signing, how much is that? And just kind of price compare for yourself. It's a lot of manual work, but you'll thank yourself at the end of it. Just one last thing to keep in mind when it comes to choosing a platform, your signer's experience is just as important, if not more important, than your experience. Stand by that statement. So when you're signing up, listen, remote online notary work is new to a lot of people, and more likely than not, your client, this is their first time using remote online notary work. So they want a platform. You need to make sure your platform's easy to use, easy to understand, easy to navigate, easy to trust, right? Because at the end of the day, when your signer is using a remote online notary platform, they have to put in their social security number, or at least a little bit part of their social security number, last 4 of the whole thing, right? And so they need to be able to trust it, and it needs to be easy to use. Like, the worst thing is having somebody trying to sign up and they're like confused or spending 2 hours just trying to navigate the site. So my suggestion also, before making any sort of decision on your platform, get a demo of the platform. Get a demo both from the signer side and from your side to see if it makes sense. Best rule of thumb, you want a platform that has some sort of app and is good on multiple devices, right? If you can use it on a phone, a tablet, and a computer, game. It already sounds like a good platform. If it has an app, that's a bonus. All right, so those are just some small things to keep in mind when considering a platform. Now, I will make a full, more thorough video because, like I said, there's so much that you can go through when you need to just figure out what you need to do to pick a platform. But just to summarize the top 5, right? First things first, you have to know your laws, okay? Know your state laws, please. Second one, know that you will have to build your own customer base 99.9% of the time. 3, know that you're going to get a majority general notary work through Ron. 4, just know how to use technology, please. Turn on, restart your phone, know how to do your audio visual. And then 5, know that not every platform is created equally, okay? And like I said, if the platform's costing you hundreds off the top, it's not a good platform, don't use it. Stand by that. But those are my 5 things. It's not an exhaustive list. There's so much more that could be talked about and I could talk about. But let me know. If you are also a remote online notary, what are your top 5? I would love to know. As always, thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.